Hello all, it is the 4th of November 2023. My task today, if I can get through it, is to finish with this steering gear to hopefully get it fully disassembled. I've got most of it disassembled, but I still have some sub-assemblies like this valve assembly that I need to finish taking apart. And I've got seals in here at the end of the gear, the box here that I need to pull out and replace, and all my new stuff is sitting over here, and I've got my paperwork here with diagrams and all that. So I'm going to try to focus on one assembly at a time until I'm all the way through it and dry things with a clean rag as I go along and so forth. So my intent is to start right here on the bottom board because this is where the leak was, and I definitely have the replacement oil seals here and whatnot. And I bought some tools to help me remove and install the seals, and I don't even know where they are right now, but they're here somewhere, along with picks to pull out little O-rings and things like that. So, oh yeah, they're sitting outside. Anyway, so I'll try to do little snippets as I'm moving along. Like I said, my first step is going to be right here. I'm going to use some snap ring pliers here to pop that out and see how we do. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so you can get a better view of what I'm doing, maybe. All right, so if I make a mistake, you can see it right away. So let's see what happens here. Trying to get this out. I don't think these are the best snap ring pliers, maybe, but those are the first ones that I found in my toolbox. So while I fight with that, I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me struggle. All right, first step here is complete. I had a heck of a time trying to get the outer seal out from this shaft right there. It did not want to come out. Finally had to use a chisel right here to just gently and carefully kind of break it apart, and then I finally got it loose. And then there was an inner one further in the bore here. That one, fortunately, came out easily with the seal puller tool that I have, and but it didn't help on the outer one. But on the inner one, it did come out easily. And I put them in order here with the way they came out. There's two washers here, and there's also replacement washers in the kit, along with a new retaining clip and the new seal. So everything I need to replace this is right there. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit more, and then I'm going to install the new parts. And I just remembered I need to bring my Vaseline out here for lubrication. All right, ready to install some new seals here. I've got them in order according to the paperwork. There's an inner seal, and the spring side goes down into the bore, then a spacer, and I will use this seal tool here to carefully tap it down into place until it's seated inside the bore here, right up against that surface where it's going to seat against. Then after that, we do a second seal. Same order, seal face down, washer on top, and then tap that one gently in place. And after that, a brand new retaining ring to hold everything in place. So, wish me luck. All right, this is probably going to be a sphincter moment here, if you know what I mean. So I've got the first seal setting in the bore with the first spacer washer on it. Here's my tool for driving it in, putting it in place, and of course, where's my hammer? There's my hammer. Here's where I really hope this works. I used some Vaseline around the outside of the seal to help lubricate it to get it in there. So I'm just going to start gently tapping and watch it go in. Okay, it looks like it's going. See what we're looking like here. Okay, it's gone in a little crooked, but once it reaches the bottom of where it's supposed to be, it should straighten itself out. At least that's the theory. Okay, it looks like it leveled out now. Okay, unless I'm mistaken, that seal is fully seated. I'm going to give it just a couple more taps just to be sure. I will know at the end if these are fully seated or not. If I can't get that snap ring in, then I know I didn't get them in all the way. So now I'm going to do the next one. Where's my Vaseline? Here it is. Fell down. A little Vaseline on the outside again. All the way around. All right. Seal goes face down in the bore. Okay. Next spacer washer on top of that. My tool to drive it in. And once again, tap. Okay. The sound is different now. I do believe it has worked. It looks beautiful. I'm impressed. Now we're going to put the new snap ring in here with my, found a better pair of snap ring pliers right there. Whoops. Okay. Put this in place. Hopefully not lose it, hurt myself in the process. All right, here we go. Oh boy. Camera. This can be tricky, of course. Get in there. Ooh. All right. Ooh, I think I got it. How about that? One thing I find interesting about this is there's actually some play. I don't know if they're supposed to be, but there's a significant amount of play here between that washer and the seal. I don't know if that's supposed to be that way, but this is what it looks like with the new seals in place and the new retaining ring. I'm going to have to do some reading here to see if it's normal to have that play on the end, or if I drove the seals in too far. I can't exactly drive them back out, so I may have to just put another spacer in there or something. So I'll figure that out next. All right, I really don't like the play that's at the end of that, at the end of the shaft here. There's a pretty significant amount of play there. I don't know if that's really a problem or not. Maybe those spacers are just used for installing the seals. I'm not really sure, so I'm not going to worry about it too much because the seals themselves are well seated, like they're supposed to be, and I'm sure the shaft will slide through them just fine. And I will test the fit before I completely reassemble everything. But the shaft, those spacers, I don't think are going to affect things too much as far as how the shaft fits in there and everything. So the next thing here is there's a little O-ring right here on the end. I'm going to replace that next. Just use my little tool here to pop that out. There it is. Replace it with a similar one. Let's see which one it is. I've got two to choose from. I'd say it's the bigger one. So that would be this one. Just going to throw that in place. Okay. Throw that in place with two hands. Okay, there we go. So now the new seal's in place. I can discard the old one so I don't get it mixed up. All right, so I think the next thing I'm going to try is to disassemble this body here. And I, of course, don't have the special tool that you need to remove this lock ring here, but I have to get that off in order to get it apart. I need to clean the inside of this since I got cleaning solvent inside there and everything, and I don't know if this leaks or not. It doesn't look like it does, but there are parts for it that I can replace. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off. I'll use a small punch and just kind of tap it until it breaks loose and comes off. All right, so I used a small punch here to get into the groove where that tool would normally go that I don't have, and I just gently tapped it, and as you can see, it's coming loose here. It's just a special kind of nut, retaining nut, so I'm just unscrewing that the whole way, and there it is. So that comes off now, and I'll just pull out. Oh, no, it doesn't unscrew. So I'm not sure how to get that out. I'll have to read a little bit. I'll get back to you. All right, turns out there's an inner retaining nut as well that I loosened the same way with my small punch and hammer just to get it started. Now I'm unscrewing it the rest of the way, and that whole assembly will then just pull straight out, I believe. Okay, bigger one goes there and there. Hopefully I won't forget the order those go in. I don't think so. All right, I think this should just put, yep, that just comes out now. So now I've got another sub-assembly that I can clean more. There is a bearing buried down in there, but I am not taking that out. No need to remove that. I'm sure it's just fine. Although there's a seal here on the end that I am going to have to pop out. I do have a replacement for that in my kit, so I will pop that out, and the seal, that's a dust cover and a seal behind it. Clean this up as best I can and then reassemble it. All right, now I'm going to remove the dust cover and the seal, the oil seal, from the end of this valve body. Okay, that came out nice and easy. Good to see. Oh, and there's a snap ring inside here, so I've got to take that off first before I can get the oil seal out. I see a little bit of corrosion in here too, and that's okay. Let's see, where's my snap ring pliers? Here they are. Let's see if we can get this out easily or not. Where's the other side of it? Come on. There's one hole. There we go. All right, so I got it to move. Just got to get it out. All right, a screwdriver, something to help. It's always so much fun, especially when you don't do this very often. All right. Come on. All right, well, I don't need you to watch me struggle here. All right, I finally got that snap ring out. I think it's time to invest in a new pair of snap ring pliers. Now I'm going to try and get this oil seal out without doing any damage to the bearing that's underneath. Ooh. Okay, well, there's the seal. And you saw the valve body fall, but no harm done. I hope. Okay, yeah, this is cast iron, so don't think that hurt anything. Here's where it just came out of that bore, so I'll clean that up a little bit. That bearing is remaining in place, and I'll clean it up as best I can and put the new seal and dust cover on there. Moving right along. All right, so I have the new seal, the new dust cover, and the new retaining ring ready to go in. So I just need to lubricate the outside of the oil seal, help it get in there in the bore. Again, it goes face down. All right, and I don't have a nice steel ring to press that down with, so I got to make sure I have one that fits properly, and that's not it. To tap it down into place. Okay, there we go. That works. My little tool here. Get my hammer and tap that home. And I think that's in. Yes, that looks very nice. Okay. And now the dust cover, I'm pretty sure, goes next. You can tell how closely I watch this. Let's see here. Let me just look in the book real quick. Where is it? Okay, there's that. There's that. There's the blow up hat. All right. Worm shaft seal. Snap ring. Dust seal. Ah, good thing I looked. The snap ring is next. Pretty sad that I couldn't remember that, but there we go. That's next. So we'll try and get that on there without too much hassle here, I hope. I definitely need a new pair of snap ring pliers. Yeah. When you don't have good tools, you pay the price. Come on, get in there. Not quite. All right, again, I'm not going to waste your time. All right, that went back together very nicely. There's a new seal in there and this new dust cover. So now this is cleaned up pretty well. There is an O-ring on the outside here. Oops, sorry. There is an O-ring on the outside here that I will replace, but this is ready to be reassembled. So I'm going to put that worm shaft back in here too. use some transmission fluid to lubricate things as I'm assembling. All right, so I made sure I put some transmission fluid on the shaft here where it engages with that new seal. I also put some directly on the seal lips itself. Now I'm just going to slide this back in place, just like it came out, carefully through the new seal, and it's all the way in. It's snapped in place very nicely. The shaft, better make sure that's out all the way. All right. Okay, now we can put the lock rings back in place. Not much to do here. Just putting these back in place. It's like this. I don't know if it matters or not, but try to get it back the same way it came out. Okay. And let's see, I used a small little punch, which is right here. Screw this down. And of course, I'm sure there's some kind of special torque specification for this retaining nut and all that, but this backyard mechanic will just have to tap it carefully and lightly with a hammer until it appears to be tight. All right, where's my hammer? Here we go. Tap this a little bit. Okay, I think it's close. I think I want to tap it a little bit more. Looking good. Okay. Make sure this stays tight. Okay, that's tight. And then put this other retaining screw on there on top. Do the same thing. Come on, get on there. Come on. Okay, there we go. Got it started. A little tiny X on top of this retaining nut. I remember seeing that before, so I know I got it facing the same way. Again, I don't know if that's important or not, but put it back the way I got it off. Okay. Again, I want to make sure it's tight enough. I'm sure it is, but let's just be certain. Tap a little bit more. Oops. Maybe that's a sign that it's tight enough and I should leave it alone, huh? Okay. Okay. I'm satisfied. So that assembly is back together. I just need to replace that that O-ring. Let's pull this old one off. So, and I think I'm supposed to soak the new one in transmission fluid before I put it on, but I believe this is maybe that's not the new one. I think that's it. I'll figure out which one it is. Continue with that. All right, now I'm working on a different sub-assembly, the piston. This is a Teflon ring on the outside here. I'm going to carefully remove it. There's supposed to be an O-ring underneath it as well. So I'm just using my little pick here to get in there and dig it out of there. And the new Teflon ring, ouch, oh boy, that hurt. I think I'm just going to have some blood from that. Anyway, so I'm removing this Teflon seal, and I do see the O-ring underneath it. Okay, that's off. This blue one is the replacement Teflon ring, so I gotta be real careful with that when I put it on. And this is the O-ring. I'm gonna take off too, my special tool here, and not poke myself again, hopefully. All right, there we go. And I just noticed that I apparently used the wrong O-ring on this sector shaft here, so I'm gonna pull that back off and use it here where it belongs. And this one, therefore, must go here on the sector shaft. The other side. Okay. All right, these are the old ones. I don't want to mix those in. And I'm supposed to use plenty of transmission fluid. on these. Just wipe this out real quick. All right. So I'm going to work on cleaning that up a little bit more and figure out when I'm going to put those ball bearings back in. All right, all the major assemblies are done now. I've got new seals where they need to be, new Teflon seal right here with a new O-ring underneath it. I took all the hard surfaces here that move around and touch other surfaces. I coated them with some transmission fluid. There's a new O-ring here. There's a new O-ring sitting here that goes in that spot there. And there's a new O-ring there. And this thing is pretty much ready to be reassembled. So we're going to start putting her back together. I got to read the directions at this point, make sure I do it in the right order and get those ball bearings back in place. All right, according to the shop manual, I'm going to be feeding the ball bearings back through this port over here. And these screws were tight. The only way I could get them off was to mount my piston in the vise carefully with a rag there to protect it. And then I used a crescent wrench and a screwdriver just the right size to loosen those puppies up. So now I can take them off and have access to where I need to feed the ball bearings back into. And that's related to putting, according to the shop manual, I have to put the worm gear here inside of this assembly, which you do like this by twisting it on like so. It feeds into, oops, you can't see that, feeds into there by spinning it. Actually, I went too far. According to the shop manual, it's about the right spot according to the shop manual. So it says the first groove in the worm gear should be visible in this hole, and that's when you start feeding in the bearings. So I need to make sure. Okay, so now that's exposed. Wipe that off a little bit. Come back in a second. All right, I now have the worm gear and the piston assembly partially put together. The instructions in the shop manual tell me that the first groove on this worm gear should be visible right here in this hole, which it is. I've made sure it's visible, so now I'm putting the little halves in there where I'm going to start feeding the ball bearings. And the idea is to feed these in one at a time into the holes and then rotating the shaft clockwise until you get them all in, all 27. So I just have to be careful not to lose any while I'm working here. And then if you can't get them all in, you're supposed to just rotate it back and forth until they do all go in. And then you do not separate this assembly, which is what I did when I took it apart, which is why all these bearings fell out in the first place. I forgot all about those bearings. So I'm just feeding them in right now, one at a time, until they don't go anymore, and then I'll rotate the worm gear. Actually, I'm going to do it now a little bit. Okay, there we go. And I'll just keep going all the way to the end, and we'll see how that looks when I'm done. All right, all 27 of those ball bearings are now in place. So now I get to put the retainer back on to make sure they don't fall out. And I cannot pull the worm gear out of this either, so it stays just like you see it now. And I will insert it into the bore on the main housing of the steering gear. And I'll have to carefully make sure I tighten these enough because they were really tight before. Surprised they didn't use hex heads on these, because these suckers were hard to break loose. I'm not going to put it back in the vise though. I'm afraid I'll lose ball bearings if I try that. So we're just going to do it right here on the bench as you see it. I don't think this is going to work itself loose. Oops. Okay, so those babies are tight. That is good. So I believe the next step is going to be inserting that into the housing here, but I'm going to read first, make sure. All right, so according to the shop manual, I am to put Vaseline on that Teflon ring, which I did, and then I'm to slide it into the bore here. I've already got a new O-ring in that spot and over here. So I'm just supposed to carefully slide this in, make sure the O-ring here is aligned with that passage, so that means it's got to face kind of like that. And just carefully slide this in without damaging the Teflon seal. Okay. Okay, something is preventing me from seating it. Maybe it's just because it's a new seal. I don't know. I'll figure that out. I don't know. I don't want to force anything here, so I'll figure that out and come back. So it turned out to be the Teflon seal that was kind of being stubborn as it's being forced into the bore there. So I carefully watched it as I used a rubber mallet to just tap on the housing up here, and eventually seated itself. So now I'm supposed to put the bolts, the retaining bolts, in this housing, but not tighten them yet. So I'm going to do that real quick and go to the next step. All right, next step. I have my mounting bolts in there, not tight. The next thing is to insert the sector shaft all the way through, and I have lubricated the shaft with transmission fluid and also the seals at the other end so they go in easily and don't tear and leak. The only thing I still have to do first, though, is I got to rotate this piston in here so these teeth will line up easily with the teeth right here on the shaft, on the sector shaft. I'm not quite sure how to do that. I may just have to just tap on it with a punch carefully to force it to rotate a little bit because it's definitely not lined up. I should have thought of that when I was pushing it into the bore. I didn't realize that would be the next step, but I'm almost done. Almost. All right, I lucked out. I was able to use a big screwdriver and just push it gently to rotate that piston in there. Now the next thing is simply to slide this in. I have a new O-ring. Oh, I forgot about that. The new O-ring doesn't really want to stay in place, so I'm going to use a little Vaseline to make it sticky and stay in place. I did put transmission fluid on it, but it needs something to help it stay in place. So I'm just going to smear just a little Vaseline on here to use just to hold it in place. I think that'll work because there's no groove or anything to hold that seal, but it's got to be in place. Okay, that looks like that's going to work. All right, so now I'm going to slide the sector shaft in there with the teeth down so they mesh with the teeth on the piston. And here we go. So far, so good. And now I got to get through those new seals at the other end. Give it a little tap here. There we go. Okay. In. And now you can see the shaft came out the other end. It looks very nice. And then all I have to do is put my mounting bolts back in. I don't remember which side had the tag, not that it matters. I'm just going to pick one side. And then I will tighten those down real good. And this baby is going to be ready to go back in the car. I don't know if I'll start that today or not. I probably will not. I like to do this in bite-sized chunks, even though I'm kind of under the gun now a little bit, but don't want to rush things either. So I'm pretty excited. I will take a last shot once I'm done completely tightening bolts down and everything. All right, so this thing is reassembled. Not a professional job at all, of course. I didn't use any special tools or anything, but everything is in place and it turns freely and smoothly like it's supposed to. And like I said, this thing is ready to go back on the car. So I will, of course, not bother putting the Pitman arm on right now. That'll go later. That'll make installation a whole lot easier. So I'm going to clean up and assess whether I want to actually start this today or just wait for another day. All right, it's not as late in the day as I thought it was. It's only about 3:30, 4 o'clock here. And since the time changes tonight, I'll lose that hour tomorrow for daylight. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this back in the car. It should not be difficult. So here's my new baby all cleaned up, ready to go. And here are the new bolts and bushings that replace the rubberized mounting pads that were on here before. So I'm going to use these now as a replacement. So we'll see how that all goes. Shouldn't be too bad. All right, and of course, while I'm under here with the car up on the jacks, I need to put the Pitman arm back on. So I'm going to do that real quick. Now that the steering gear is locked to the frame of the car, I should be able to tighten that nut on there pretty easily. And I'll use a new cotter key for the attachment to the center link. Eventually I'll replace the center link and all these other components, but right now I just need to slap it All right, I think this was a successful day. The steering gear is finished. It's back in the car, mounted. Pitman arm is reconnected to the steering gear and the center link. And I'm ready to go to the next phase, which I haven't even decided what I'm doing next, but I'll figure it out. Signing off for now.